All right. So you should have or be very close to finishing up all your worksheets or your workbook, as we would call it, in whole. And the only thing left then for the financial section is going to be doing a financial narrative. And I don't have anything up, and I don't know that I really need to show anything up on the board anyhow. What a financial narrative is now is just telling me really how you came up with your numbers. Please don't just recite your numbers. I'm more interested in how you came up with those numbers. And I'll try to give you some examples. In your startup, that's pretty easy, right? You've got some expenses up there. How did you arrive at the expenses for your equipment? Some people provided some detailed lists. It's okay just to reference the list. Your financials are going to be in the appendix. Okay, so it's okay to reference the list on sheet 2 of the workbook, right? That would be more than appropriate. Some of you, maybe you got a vehicle. You're doing a trucking. Okay, where'd you get your number from, right, on the startup? Okay, explain a little bit about how you're going about with your lending. Why it's broken down the way it is, or the money, your sources of funds anyhow. Okay, you got loans and you've got equity. Kind of explain a little bit what the breakdown is. Then you get into the other ones that maybe are a little bit more complicated. A lot of you don't have payroll. That's good. You made it simple. You kept it simple. Good deal. Okay. Some of you have payroll. Pick on Wiley again, right? So you're going to have somebody that's going to be working full time, if I'm not mistaken. But about half that, or a little less than half of that's going to be dedicated to doing some research and whatnot that you're going to get to bill out. Boom. Okay. You spend a little short paragraph, kind of explaining to me why you've got your payroll the way it is, how much you're going to pay the person, those types of things. Okay. Get into the sales forecast. This maybe gets a little bit more complicated, and I really want you to pay attention to this. And I've made some comments, some feedback for some of you. Seth's not here. I'll pick on Seth. Okay, he's projecting he's going to be in a mechanic type of a business, and he's projecting that he's going to have 20. And I can just make a quick glance at his financials. He's going to have 2,120 hours of work himself during the course of the year. That's more than a full-time job. Okay, I can tell you that right off the bat. A full-time job, 40 hours a week, 52 weeks a year is 2,080 hours, right? So that means he's not planning to take any vacation or anything, and he's going to work overtime every week. Well, that's okay. A lot of people do that with their own business, but then he's also charging out mileage. And I don't know if he's combining those or not. That was the feedback, right? So I don't know if he's combining that mileage, but he says he's going to put on about 30,000 miles per year. Okay, I did a little quick math on that. It didn't take me too long, but that's 500 hours. That's a minimum of 500 hours. I'm sorry, that's a minimum of 500 hours if you're putting 30,000 miles on. Okay, that's if you're driving 60 miles an hour, and straight through with no stops, right? I think that's 500 hours if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so now all of a sudden he's maybe up to 20, unless he is charging them by the hour even when he's on the road, and that could be. He needs to explain that to me, right? And that's kind of what I'm getting at here. I'm trying to give you an example of what you need to look at when you look at your sales forecast. If you're gonna another person, a distance person, they're going to be tinting windows and doing some other things. What's the breakdown? How many of those, if you're open 5 days a week, how many are you doing per day? And with the amount of help you have, is that reasonable? Okay. Wiley, we talked about yours. I got a pretty good idea already, but you need to tell me, hey, I'm going to be there 40 hours a week, but there's no way I'm going to be able to charge that out to my customers till you get older and you figure out how to lie about your billable hours and whatnot, Okay. Like other attorneys, you gotta learn from the other attorneys how you can charge 50 hours in a 40-hour work week. Okay. everybody kind of, Randy, you got to break down, how many kids you're going to have. And, maybe you're making an allowance for, sometimes, they're going to get pulled out because mom and dad, are taking them to Disneyland or something, whatever the case may be, right? And so those are the things that you tell me about so that I can get a good picture of what's going on. I think what I'm getting to, and I got ahead of myself a little bit, is you probably take each section like I've assigned them, and you give me a good paragraph on that. Some of them will be a relatively short paragraph, and some of them are going to be a little longer paragraph because it takes a little more explanation. Some of them may take more than one paragraph. That's possible. Your sales forecast, if you want to tell me something special about what's happening in years 2 and 3, great. Okay. Additional inputs, maybe, right? You're going to explain to me why you changed, or why your accounts receivable is the way it's going to be. Okay, my accounts receivable says I'm going to get paid all within the first 30 days, 100%. Well, if you're a retail place, that's probably pretty typical. Okay, if you're a lawyer, that would be pretty rare. Daycare, yeah, maybe. But probably not fully, yours might be 80-20 or something like that. So
that's the financial narrative?
This is where you're explaining those things to me, yeah. And again, you're not don't just tell me that, I'm going to collect 80% in 30 days and 20%. You kind of tell me why, right? Well, I'm a retail place and my sales are all going to be at the cash register, so I'm going to get paid right away. So that's 100%. That's fine, okay? I'm trucking for cattle ranchers, and I'm going to take my trip. I'm going to send them out the bill as soon as I get home, or they're going to pay me half up front, whatever payment arrangement you think it's going to be. I'm going to send them out a bill for the rest. I imagine most of them are going to pay me within 30 days, but 10% of them might pay me later than 30 days. And, there's going to be 3 or 4% that don't pay me at all, and so that's why I have, that type of... Yeah.
Take it out of the guy's check.
Right. Yep. Yeah. You technically kind of have a lien on it. Yeah. Yep. And so that's perfect. You just explained to me, why your accounts receivable might be set up that way, right? Okay. Now you're doing some other trucking that's not taking things to the sale barn. Who knows where you're taking it to, right? So maybe a little bit different. How about grain? Does that work that way too?
That'd be a little different.
Yeah. I think
You'd
that.
have to send the bill to
Yeah, to the farmer. Yep. Maria?
I'm trying to put in some numbers, but it won't let me.
You gotta go to unprotect the sheet again, remember? Under review. Okay. Okay, so let's see. We've done startup, payroll, sales, cash flow. Okay, again, in the cash flow, there's really only about 4 lines there that may be that you may have had some input on, and probably only 2, right? Your withdrawal as the owner. Okay, you've got owner's distribution or owner's withdrawal, whatever it's called, and you just need to explain. That's pretty simple. This cash flow is probably going to be a pretty short paragraph because you're just going to explain that we're taking out, or I'm taking out X amount per month. Okay. And if you have a line of credit that's created, kind of explain to me, hey, it's first few months of the business, my accounts receivables are lagging. I create a little bit of a line of credit, but by month 5 I can pay it off. Boom. Again, relatively simple. The ones that you don't, that you never had any input in really, but they're there still, are the income statement and the balance sheets. Okay, and what I'm interested in on the income statement, obviously, is the first year income, and if it comes out that that's a little bit negative, that's not that unusual. Okay, I got to go back to cash flow, though, I'm sorry, because I said you're going to talk to me about the inputs there, but you also want to comment on where your cash is, where you're starting, where it is at the end of the first year, where it is at the end of the second year, and where it is at the end of the third year, right? That's really important. Cash flow is a huge deal. Income statement, kind of same thing. First year, not doing so good, but with my sales growth in the second year and keeping expenses under control, I'm making a nice profit, whatever the case may be for your particular business. And balance sheet's kind of the same way. What I'm really interested in the balance sheet is maybe how your equity grows, right? Or how your debt decreases, maybe, if it in fact does. Okay, there's some key things there on the balance sheet. You kind of go down. Balance sheet's also going to reflect cash, where your cash is at. Okay, so you could comment about that. You comment about your maybe total current assets, because cash is also on your cash flow, which you've already talked about. But you might talk about your total current assets. How about working capital? Anybody remember what's the definition of working capital?
Cash on hand.
Cash what?
Cash on hand.
Yeah. Working capital. It's a little more than that. Man, counting one. Current assets minus current liabilities, right, equals working capital. Okay, and what you have on your startup is not, it asks you for working capital, and that's cash on hand. So that's where you got that from. That's on the startup. That's not a good definition on the startup of what. That should just say cash on hand. It should not say working capital. I probably had to get in and change that. Because working capital, the official definition of working capital is current assets minus current liabilities. Current assets being your cash, but also accounts receivable, also inventory, right? So those types of things are important. They probably show up in the ratios. If you go back on the green tabs there, there's some ratios that are there, and some of those might show up there. And so you may want to look at those and make some comments on those, on that financial analysis. Okay, the narrative. How long should it be? I kind of gave you an idea. You're going to have a paragraph or, a short paragraph, long paragraph, maybe a couple paragraphs for each section. It's going to be about 2 pages maybe, right? Page and a half, 2 pages probably by the time you get all that done, depending on your spacing and all those other things. Okay, but that's probably about how long it's going to be. It shouldn't take you forever to write it up. It should be, relatively painless. Okay, and feel free to ask questions as you go along here. So, any questions? I should go back and ask anybody got questions on the worksheets that you've been working on. If they're individual questions, I'll come around. We can sure address those. But if you got more general questions, go ahead and fire away. None? Okay. Short talk today. By the way, though, a couple of announcements. Friday night here at Northern at 6 o'clock and 8 o'clock, we got Skylights and Lights basketball against LC, I believe is Friday. And then Saturday we play Tech. Friday night and Saturday night. Or Saturday night is against Tech, both Skylights and the Lights. We still plan to have the ski hill open this weekend. I'm a little bit nervous about the wind that's actually going to blow on Saturday. Wind's a killer, and that may cause us some difficulties, but who knows. So sometimes the wind doesn't live up to its expectations, and that's what we'll hope for. Sunday shouldn't be too bad, if we still have some snow left on Sunday then. So, okay, I'll turn you loose and I'll come around and see how everybody's doing.